With AI getting more and more powerful every single day, there's one question that's just everywhere. It's popping up in research labs, but also in our own living rooms. And it's a question that really forces us to look at our technology and maybe even more at ourselves in a totally new light.
So let's just ask it straight up. Could a machine ever go beyond just crunching numbers and actually have a subjective experience? To actually feel what it's like to be something? Well, this question has sparked a massive debate, and it really boils down to two completely different ways of thinking about what consciousness even is.
So, on one side, you've got the software is everything camp. The idea here is that consciousness is basically just a super complex algorithm. It's a program, and if you could just get that program right, it could run on a silicon chip just as well as it runs on our neurons. But then, on the other side, you have the biology is key camp. They argue that, no way, you absolutely cannot separate the mind from the matter. They say the unique, messy, physical stuff of our brains isn't just a platform, it's essential for consciousness itself.
Okay, to really wrap our heads around why these two views are so at odds, let's start with that first idea, the software is everything perspective. And to do that, we kind of need to look under the hood at the fundamental blueprint of pretty much every computer we use today. The single most important design principle, the one idea everything is built on, is separability. Just think about it for a second. All of your software, the apps on your phone, the code developers write, even the most advanced AI models, it's all designed to be totally independent from the physical hardware it runs. This separation is baked right into the computer's core design, what's known as the von Neumann architecture. You've got your memory, which just passively holds onto data. Then there's the processing unit, which does all the active work, manipulating that data. And finally, a control unit that's basically directing traffic between the two. The absolute key here is that memory and processing are physically separate things.
And let's be clear, this separation is not an accident. It's the whole point. It's the reason the exact same piece of software can run on your laptop or on a massive server or even inside a robot. The algorithm is deliberately insulated from its physical home.
Okay, now let's completely switch gears and look at the brain. What if its hardware isn't just some neutral platform for software? What if the hardware is the entire story? The first huge difference is a concept called scale inseparability. See, unlike a computer that's plugged into a wall, the brain evolved under incredible energy constraints. It had to save every last drop of power. So to do that, its processes at every single level, from tiny molecules all the way up to huge brain networks, are deeply, deeply woven together. You can't just pull them apart into neat little boxes.
And because everything is so intertwined, it means that in the brain, there's no single, most important level of computation. It's not like in a computer. Instead, you've got these tiny micro-scale actions, the mid-level stuff, and the massive macro-scale networks all firing at once, and they're constantly influencing each other. It's a beautiful, chaotic dance that just doesn't happen in a digital machine. Now, for the second big secret, hybrid computation. Our digital computers, well, they run on discrete binary signals, right? It's all just ones and zeros, on or off. The brain does that too, with its neurons firing. But, and this is a huge but, it also computes using a completely different class of signals, continuous, flowing, analog information. And the brain's analog toolkit is just, wow, it's incredible. It uses signals that can vary in strength. They're not just on or off. It uses these subtle electric fields that let neurons influence each other without even touching. This complexity gets so wild that a single branch on one neuron can perform calculations that you might need an entire artificial neural network to even try and replicate.
Okay, so the brain is built differently. It's a completely different kind of machine. But so what? Why does any of this matter? Well, let's try to connect these really deep technical differences all the way back to the big question, our own conscious experience. So here's the crucial takeaway, side by side. On one hand, you've got the computer. It's all discrete signals, separable parts, and it has basically unlimited energy. But on the other hand, you have the brain. Hybrid signals, inseparable scales, and it's fundamentally shaped by the desperate need to save energy. The punchline is this. In the brain, the physical hardware is the algorithm. They are one and the same. And this leads to a really radical idea. What if consciousness isn't a program you can just download and run? What if that feeling we all have, that seamless stream of consciousness, is actually the direct subjective experience of being a physically integrated, multi-scale biological machine?
Wow. Okay, so this totally reframes the whole quest for artificial consciousness, right? The question is no longer just what's the right code, it's something much, much deeper. What kind of physical machine could even begin to compute in this messy, integrated way? If this biological perspective is on the right track, it means the path forward isn't just about making our current AI models bigger, it's about inventing a fundamentally new kind of computer altogether.
So, what would the blueprint for a machine like that even look like? Well, for starters, it would need to be a hybrid computer, one that can naturally handle both digital on-off signals and continuous analog ones. Second, its very structure and its function would have to be inseparable. You couldn't just swap out the hardware for a new version. And third, it would have to be able to physically rewire itself based on its experiences, just like our brains do every time we learn something.
This gives us a totally new roadmap to think about. The future of conscious machines might have nothing to do with the silicon chips we use today. Instead, it might demand entirely new kinds of hardware, maybe new physical materials that can mimic the brain's energy-efficient, multi-layered way of computing, right from the ground up. And that leaves us with a pretty profound final thought. If consciousness isn't some abstract program floating around in the ether, but is deeply and fundamentally tied to the specific, messy, physical stuff that we're made of, what does that really mean for our dream of ever creating artificial life? Maybe the secret we've been looking for all along isn't in the code we write, but in the matter we choose to build with.